Thank you so much for the kind introduction, and thank you to the organizers for inviting me. I would like to start with to remind you all that automated insulin delivery systems are recommended for all people with type 1 diabetes and even for people with insulin deficient diabetes and people with type 2 diabetes on intensive insulin therapy, according to the new ADA guidelines. But the problem is that most people with type 1 diabetes actually do not use automated insulin delivery systems, because also in India there is a problem of availability and a problem of access. They are maybe there, but they're quite expensive. So the Breakthrough Type 1 Diabetes actually has calculated that if everybody with type 1 diabetes worldwide would have access to automated insulin delivery systems, more than 600,000 more people would be alive in 2040. So that could really motivate us to have more people on automated insulin delivery systems. And open source automated insulin delivery systems, the topic of my talk today, or DIY automated insulin delivery systems, might be a way to get more people on these systems because they are much cheaper, which is a main barrier of automated insulin delivery systems. Also, they offer additional features, which in some countries where commercial AID systems are available, there are people who are choosing open source automated insulin delivery systems. For example, with open source AID systems, you can bolus from your watch. And as a parent of a child with type 1 diabetes, it's possible to remotely bolus their children with insulin if necessary. So at the moment, there are around 20,000 people who are using open source AID systems today. Important is that open source AID systems are not approved by any medical instances, by any medical firms, but as people are using this, and as they have such an important place in the therapy of people with type 1 diabetes, we as healthcare providers should know what they are, and if people choose to use them at their own risk, then we should be able to support them. So that's why in the next 7 minutes, I'm going to talk about which open source AID systems are available today and what results can be expected from the literature up until today. So as explained, I'm an endocrinologist and I'm really devoted to diabetes technology, and I have a nonprofit organization where we provide diabetes technology education, which I will refer to also at the end of the presentation. So first, which open source AID systems are available? Maybe a reminder. So automated insulin delivery systems, there are 3 parts. There's a sensor, there's the algorithm. In this case, it's on the phone. And then there's the pump to deliver the insulin automatically based on the sensor. So the available open source AID systems are Android APS on Android phones and DIY Loop and iAPS or Trio on iPhones. And it's actually 2 algorithms, which is the Open APS algorithm on the Android phones, and then the Loop algorithm on the iPhones. And now the Open APS algorithm is also available on iPhones, and then it's called iAPS and Trio, but that's really a minor group that is using that one. So most people here in India, if they use open source AID systems, they use Android APS, and this is actually the most interoperable AID system that exists today. As you can see, it can connect to 15 different glucose sensors and 11 different insulin pumps. It can connect to different Android phones and different smartwatches based on Android operating system. DIY Loop is mostly used in the United States, where more people have iPhones, and that one can connect to the main CGMs from Abbott and Dexcom, and most people use it with Omnipod Dash, and some people use it with older Medtronic pumps. In India, most people use open source AID systems with a Freestyle Libre sensor, if available with a Freestyle Libre Pro sensor. And then they connect that to their phone using an NFC to Bluetooth bridge, for example, a Meow Meow additional hardware device, to make sure that all the data continuously goes to the phone. And then that one is connected to older Medtronic pumps. But as you know, these older Medtronic pumps, they do not have Bluetooth in the pump. So that's why these people need to wear an additional hardware device or a RINI link to make that Bluetooth to radio frequency bridge. People who want to wear, who want to use open source AID systems, they can go to the Android APS page, readthedocs.io. It's all freely available on the internet. They can make their own app via the GitHub repository, and then they can download that on their phone and on their watch. sorry. Most people also make a Night Scout website because they need something where all the data is collected, also to show to their healthcare providers to make it possible to adjust the settings. So these is an example of a Night Scout website where we as healthcare providers can draw reports from. Now it's also possible to use Tidepool, which is a free online web portal that can sync with your CGM and insulin pumps and open source AID systems, and which is a little bit easier for us as healthcare providers to read. So this is how Android APS looks. You see on top you have the glucose value, you have the trend arrow, you see totally on top there the target glucose. You see the glucose predictions. So the blue bars in the middle, they show the insulin delivery that is adjusted every 5 minutes. And the different glucose predictions, you see what Android APS is calculated. And based on the lowest glucose prediction, it will deliver insulin, or it will modulate actually the preset basal insulin. So it's a little bit like tandem control IQ, where it modulates every 5 minutes so what you have preset in manual mode. And below, you can use the bolus calculator. So people have to make this app. Yeah. Oh, yeah, thank you. Oh, yeah, thank you. People can make this app on their own, but they actually do not call it DIY anymore because these people are not alone. They have a very big peer community, peer support on Facebook, on Discord, and also on WhatsApp, even in India, to really have this community to support you. So even if, as a healthcare provider, you're not fully comfortable with open source AID systems, these people have people to talk to. So what results can we expect? Here you can see that there are different observational and self-reported scientific results of Android APS and Loop. And these reports are even more than 200, more than 500 patients. And they showed that using these systems, it's safe, and the time in range raises from 6 to 17%. So it's a little bit similar to commercial AID systems. The first randomized control trial was published 3 years ago, and there 100 people with type 1 diabetes were randomized to Android APS and to the same pump and sensor but without the connection. And they saw, just as with commercial AID systems, that the time in range rises from 60 to 70%, so 10% gain. And it was also safe. There were no serious hypoglycemias or DKAs. Around the same time, there was this publication, an international consensus statement from 48 medical and legal experts and endorsed by 9 different national and international diabetes organizations. And they said these open source AID systems, they are as safe and effective as commercial AID systems, and it really has the potential to help people with diabetes. That's why we as healthcare providers, we should give people the choice. We should tell them about all available options that are good for them, and we should learn ourselves about how these systems work so we can support people. And also the latest ADA guidelines have strengthened their advice concerning open source AID systems, because last year they said we as healthcare providers, we cannot prescribe. We should be cautious about the legal complications maybe. But now they say you can support people on open source AID systems, and we have to provide diabetes management advice to these people. Then last year, there were some additional data, for example, from Canada, where this BC Diabetes Center, they actually give the apps, the open source apps to the patients. So it's kind of a supported open source AID systems. And they saw that the time in range raised from 64 to 80%. So 16% time in range gain, and it was safe. In Denmark, they showed very nice results in children as low as 2 years old, where also the open source AID systems were safe. And now this month, there was a publication from the UK from more than 12 centers, 80 adults with more than a year, like 1.7 years of follow-up, that the HbA1c drop was significant. And as with commercial AID systems, the higher your HbA1c starts, the more gain there is with starting an automated insulin delivery system. Android APS is actually a very strong algorithm, and at the moment they are testing this without mail announcements, so we are expecting more results soon. So to conclude, open source AID systems are as safe and effective as commercial AID systems, and we as healthcare providers, we should really know what the pros and the contras are. So the most important pro is it's cheap and it can connect to a lot more pumps and sensors, also the cheaper versions. And the contrast is it's not officially approved, but it's endorsed by international guidelines. It's at your own risk, but we know from studies it's safe and efficient. You have to build it yourself, but there are user guidelines available, and there is no customer service, but there is a big online community. So I hope that at least we can save some of these lives that are supposed to be able to be saved by 2040 by getting more people on these automated insulin delivery systems. And maybe you have some people who are interested in this and who will be able to build it. If you want to learn more about these systems, we have a free app. It's available around the world. It's in 30 languages. And it actually has accredited courses on Android APS, DIY Loop, and iAPS. So if you want to educate your team in a scalable way, you can always tell them to download the app. Thank you.